Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, thank you for stopping by. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. And I would like to say a big thank you to 1K subscribers. Thank you all. I couldn't have done this without you. Today I'll be showing us how to make a girl dress. It could fit for a baby, it could fit for a toddler or a young girl. Now the measurements we'll be needing today are the shoulder measurements, the chest or the bust measurements, the waist measurements, the half length measurement, the dress length, and the armhole measurement. First of all, I like to cut the bottom bit first, which is the gathered part of the dress. So we need to take away the half length from the full dress length. So the full dress length that we need is 25, and our half length measurement is 10.5. So when we take away 10.5 from 25, we'll have 14.5 left, and I've gone ahead to add 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches, where half inch is my sewing allowance of the top to the bottom, and then 1 inch is my hemming allowance to fold the lower bit of the dress. So let's get started. The next thing I've done now is I've folded my fabric. This is 2 yards of fabric. I've just folded it into 2 yards of fabric, and from the selvage I'll be taking my measurement of 16 inches. So I'll just be marking my 16 inches here. 16. Connecting this and cutting out. This is to mark the wrong side of my fabric so that I don't mix it up, because the right and wrong side of this fabric look almost the same. So I'm keeping this aside. This is the bottom bit of the dress. The next thing I want to do now is to cut the main body. Now to cut the bodies of the dress, like I said in the measurement, the chest measurement is 24 inches, and 24 divided by 4 would give us 6 inches. I have put on fold 8 inches, but what I need is actually 7.5, 6 inches for the bodies and 1.5 inches for the seam allowance that is going to be on the sides. Now, according to our measurement, our half length is 10.5. Our half length measurement is 10.5, but this is 11.5. So I'm measuring 11.5. I'll explain more why I'm doing that. So this is going to serve as my shoulder line. Remember, the shoulder we are working with is 10 inches. So I'm going to be marking 5 inches. That's shoulder divided by 2 is 5. And I'm going to be marking 2¼ This is going to serve as my neck. On this shoulder line, I'm coming down by ½ inch, and then I'm creating my shoulder slant. This is my shoulder slant. Remember that from our measurements, armhole measurement is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6 inches. So this is going to be where my armhole is starting from. Just to confirm, I have my chest measurement, which my shoulder measurement, which is 5 on fold. I'll do that again here, and then I'll be connecting this like so. And then we'll be taking the armhole measurement from here. Now, remember that I said that the half length is supposed to be 10.5. We need ½ inch to join it, so that by the time we join ½ inch to the bottom, it will come back to 10.5. But I also added another ½ inch. This is to accommodate the tummy of little girls and children. When they wear their dresses, you notice that most of them have big tummy, and when they wear the dresses, it just moves it up. So I've just added that extra ½ inch to accommodate the tummy. And so I'm going to be taking 11.5 here at the center front, but on the side fronts I will be taking 11, so that I have like a slight curve in the middle, like so. Very slight curve like this. Yes, and then I'll mark this out. It's a very slight curve, but when they're wearing the dress you cannot notice the curve. So now on my armhole, I'll be taking the center. This is 5.5. remember that I'll be taking half of an inch off, so you can just fold this in half to get the midpoint. This is my midpoint, and that's to just help me with my curve. On this midpoint you'll be coming in by quarter of an inch or 1 inch or half of an inch, quarter or half. Then I'm connecting the 3 points together to create my armhole, like so. So the next thing I need to do is to finish up my neck. The neck depth is going to be 2 1/4 to match up with the neck width. So I'm connecting this as well. Don't forget to add your 0.5 inches for your shoulder joining, to join the front shoulder to the back. Now I need to take my chest measurement. Remember, my chest measurement is 24, and that gives me 6. And then the waist measurement is 23. That is 5 3/4. So this is 5 3/4 right here, like so. And then the last thing I need to do is to add my seam allowance. I'll be adding 1.5 inches seam allowance here and 1.5 inches seam allowance here, and then I'll connect the two together. Seam allowance is added, and this is my front bodice. I'll go ahead now and cut this out. This is my front bodice. Notice that I haven't cut out this shaped edge yet, because I want to place this bodice to cut out my back, and the front and the back bodies are the same except for the neckline. So I'm going to be folding my fabric again. This time around, remember that we'll be adding our zipper allowance to the back. So my zipper allowance is usually 1 inch. You can do 1.5 if you are comfortable with it. So I just rolled out my zipper allowance like this, and then I'm placing these bodies on it and cutting it out exactly the way it is, but with the zipper allowance included this time. And because I said I wanted a higher neck at the back, I want a higher neck for the back, so I can just roll this start line again, connected to the previous one, so that I can know where it started from, like this. And then the back neck, I want it to be 1 inch, the depth. So that's my 1 inch depth, and I'll connect it back right to that point. That's the difference, and then we cut this out. If you notice that both of the armholes are the same, this is because I'm making it into a sleeveless dress. And I also did not add sleeve joining allowance to the sleeve because it's going to be sleeveless. And then I'm splitting this open. This is going to be one back piece and the other back piece. So these are my 2 back pieces. Remember that we added 1/2 inch to this, and we are going to be taking that out from the back. We don't need that 1/2 inch on the back because there's no tummy on the back. So first I'll just rule it out the 1/2 inch and then cut it away from the back. Now I can cut this out with the curve. Wondering if they match up? I can just quickly show that to us now. So this is the front. Don't forget to always mark the wrong side of your fabric. And this is the back. You can see the side seams match up perfectly, and that's what we need. So we're going to be using all these 3 pieces that were cut out to then cut out our lining. So the last thing I've gone ahead to do, like I said to us, is to cut the lining. So I've cut out the linings that match with it to see that they're accurate. So this is the lining for the front bodice, and then for the bottom bits I cut out exactly the same thing like the lower bit, but this time it is 2 inches shorter. That's the only difference for the bottom bit, but the top bits, they're exactly the same. The last thing I cut out here is a long strip of fabric. It measures 30 inches by 4 inches, and this is going to serve as my belt. It's 30 by 4 and it's going to serve as my belt. So I've cut 2, 1 for each side. And then the last thing I want to show us is that you fold your belt like so at the edge like this, and then you can curve this out to create the pointy part of your belt like this. So to stitch the belt, first of all, we'll fold it in half. Start at this point, you stitch from this corner all the way to the top, and you then turn it right side out, and you do the same for both sides. Now to start joining our bodies together, the first thing we need to do is to join the neck of the front like so. We'll be joining the neck. We'll do the same for the back neck. We'll notch, and then we'll top stitch it. When we flip it to the right side, we'll top stitch on the lining, and then I'll do that quickly and we'll continue from there. So I've gone ahead, like I said, to join the lining to the fabric on the neckline, and then I went ahead to notch it and then top stitch on the lining side. I've done the same for front and back. Now I want to show us how to join the front shoulder to the back shoulder. So this is my front and this is my back, facing each other like this. This is one of the very important steps you need to pay attention to. So you need to open this up like so, and then also open the lining up the same way. Make sure to match your seams. Make sure to match your seams, lining to lining, fabric to fabric, like this, and pin in place. And the next thing you want to do is to go and sew on a 1/2 inch sewing allowance side to side. After joining it side to side, from one side to the other, this is what it looks like. I went ahead to open this out and press the seams open. So when I turn it to the right side, this is what I have. Seamless finish front and back. This is what I have. So I'll do that quickly and then we'll continue from there. Now I'm done joining the shoulders together, and then this is what I have. The next thing we want to do now is to join the armhole together. When we open this up, this is the lining together, fabric together. we want to fold it this way. We're folding it this way in such a way that lining and fabric join together on the armhole, front and back, like this. Okay, and then we'll go and stitch from this end all the way to the other end. So now I'm done joining from one end of the armhole to the other end. We need to then notch. Be careful not to cut through your seam lines, not to cut through your stitches. We're notching both armholes. Now the next thing we want to do is to turn it to the right side, because this is the wrong side of the fabric, so we need to turn it to the right side. How do we go about this? You go into this armhole, into the shoulder seam. This is our shoulder seam, remember? So we'll try to push out this back through the front, like so. Push it in and then get it out on the other side. This is what the right side then looks like. Seamless finish on the armhole and on the neckline. So this is the front, this is the back. They are both clean. Let me show us on the other hand as well, for those of us who haven't gotten it. This is it. This is the front and this is the back. We're pushing this back through the shoulder to the front. So I'll do that again. I'll go in here and then push it in. Please take your time. Do this as gently as you can and push it in till it comes out on the other side. Yes. So now that is it, and you want to give this a good press like this. We need to give it a good press so that it lays flat and nice. This is what we have now. So we have our front and back all neatly finished, like so. The next thing we need to do is to join our shoulder seams. Join our shoulder seams. We're just not going to turn this way and join straight like so. No, just like we matched up our seams the previous times, we're going to match up our seams this time again. We're going to match it this way, lining to lining, fabric to fabric, to join our side seams like this. Make sure that they align. Make sure that it aligns. When you are sure that it aligns, then you pin it in place and then you go and sew your allowance. On this project, I left a 1.5 inch seam allowance, so I'll just measure 1.5, stitch from lining bit to fabric bit all the way to the end. But before I do that, remember that I cut out a belt for this project, so this is the time to add your belt in. This is one of my belts that I have stitched and turned to the right side. This is one of my belts. So on your fabric side, you need to measure 1 inch up, like so, 1 inch. This is on the right side, 1 inch, and then I'll place my belt on that 1 inch mark like this on the right side of my fabric. Then I can pin this in place to just hold the belt in place, and then I place this on top of it and go and stitch on my 1.5 inch seam allowance from here to the other side, and I'll do the same thing for both sides. I have finished now joining from one side to the other, and I've pressed my seams open. So this is what my right side looks like on the upper bodice. This is the upper bodice with the belt in place, and this is the right side of my fabric, like so. And then I'll show us the lining side now. This is the inside of it. Clean, neat finish. Next thing, the lower bits that we cut out initially, you need to gather it. How do you create this gather stitch? On your fabric, you need to stitch a seam line with your biggest seam. Like on my sewing machine, my biggest seam is 5, so I set it to 5 and I stitched without back stitching, and then you just pull like so. You need to do this gently to gather it. You pull it gradually from the beginning to the end. This is the gathering technique that you want to apply. You do the same thing for your fabric as I've done for the lining. Now the next thing you want to do is, I have done this for my lining and my fabric, but then I want to notch the center of my bodice like this. That's the center of my bodice, and I've notched it. I have gone ahead to gather the bottom parts of my dress, and I have also notched the center. So I'm just trying to figure out that center now. Yes, here's the center. So I'm going to be matching right sides to right side like this, and I will pin this in place. Note that I'm pinning on only the Ankara fabric. I left the lining out. So I'm pinning this in place, and then I'm going to be stitching this together on a 0.5 inch seam allowance from this end to the other end. Don't forget that we left a 1 inch zipper allowance on the bodies, so you want to leave your 1 inch free without gathers. So you want to leave your 1 inch free and then start joining the gathers from here, from one end to the other. You will repeat exactly the same thing on the lining, and it will just be the lining to lining like this, and you will stitch it together. So the lining is here, the print is here. I'll do that quickly and show us. So our dress is almost ready. This is what we have. Our dress is almost ready. This is what we have right now. So I have, like I said, joined the body to the body and the lining to the lining. So this is the lining together, the fabric together. The last thing we want to do is now face the lining to lining like this. Match up your seams, pin it in place. I'm matching it up on the waistline, and then you are going to be measuring 6 to 7 inches from here downwards, and we're going to be closing that bit. So you are going to measure from here 6 or 7 inches, make your mark there, and then you go and join from here to the end. You can, if you have rough edges here, after joining it, that's the time to double fold and finish it off. That is lining to lining, and we'll do the same for the Ankara bit. We'll face right side together like so, and we'll repeat exactly the same thing, matching the waist seam together like this. You pin it in place just like we did for the lining. We pin it in place. We'll measure our 6 inches from here downwards. Measure 6 inches from the seam line. Measure your 6 inches. You'll mark it, and then you go and stitch from here with the seam allowance you left from here down. And when we're done stitching, we're going to be double folding the hem all around. So like I said, I've joined from my 6 inches to the end on both lining and fabric. So this is my zipper. To add this zipper, what you want to do is place your zipper. This is the correct way it should look. But when we're stitching it, we're going to be placing it like this and stitching on a 1-inch seam allowance from top to bottom. Notice that I am stitching to only the fabric. I'm not joining it to the lining yet. So you stitch it all the way to the end, at least 1 or 2 inches past that stitch line that we previously did. I'd explained that. So you want to go below your stitch by 1 or 2 inches like this and stop somewhere here. Okay, so let's assume that I have stitched this on the sewing machine. This is what it will look like on the right side. So I'll just zip this open and either cut off this excess. You can leave a little bit to secure your zipper. I'll snip it off from here and fold this in like so, and then I will flip my lining on top of it and then stitch this in place using the zipper as a guide, making sure that you don't stitch on the zipper. If you find this difficult, you can use other zipper sewing techniques that are simpler, but this is to ensure that you have a perfect finish and your garment looks clean, like a ready made or ready to wear clothing. I'll just pin this in place and then we'll turn it inside out for us to see what the finished look will be. So you will stitch this in place. Now if I turn the dress out to the right side, this is what my zipper will look like at the end of the project. This is what it will look like on the right side, and then on the wrong side all your rough edges will be inside the dress and you have a very clean finish on both sides. Thank you for watching. If you watched till this very time, I appreciate you for watching and staying tuned till the very end. If you are yet to subscribe, please do so. If you've already done so, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to comment, to like, to share, and to subscribe. See you in my next video. Bye.